first graders, and welcome back to Wit and Wisdom in Sync. My name is Tanisha Spears, and I am so excited to jump into our first module together. But before we do, let's make sure you have your materials ready. For this lesson, you will need your copy of Tomas and the Library Lady if you have one. You'll need your Wit and Wisdom in Sync journal and a pencil or a pen. Pause the video now if you need to gather your materials. As you may remember from the welcome lesson, our first module is a world of books. And for this module, we will be trying to answer our big question or our essential question, which is, how do books change lives around the world? I'll say that question one more time. How do books change lives around the world? However, before we jump into answering that big question or that essential question, we will spend a few days closely reading the text, Tomas and the Library Lady. And as we read, we will be thinking about this focusing question. How do library books change life for Tomas? Every time we read Tomas and the Library Lady, we will come closer to answering that focusing question. Now, before we begin, I want to point out two words that we will use in our work together. You may have already used these words before and know what they mean, but I want you to take a minute to refresh your memory. The first word is notice. Notice. What do you think notice means? Use the picture if you need to. I am sure you guessed what notice means, but to notice means to look or listen carefully to see what catches your attention. One more time. To notice means to look or listen carefully to see what catches your attention. The next word is wonder. What do you think to wonder means? Tell your learning partner. Wondering or to wonder means being curious and coming up with questions that you want to find answers for when you read. I'll say it one more time. Wondering or to wonder means being curious and coming up with questions that you want to find answers for the next time you read. Now that you know what I mean when I say notice and wonder, I want to share the question that will frame our learning today. This question will also help us build our knowledge to answer the essential question for the module. Our content framing question for today is, what do I notice and wonder about Tomas and the Library Lady? And to get you ready to make observations about the text, we're going to practice together. I want you to take a look at the front cover of the book. What do you notice? Tell your learning partner one thing you notice. Oh, how I wish I could hear what you noticed. Let me tell you a few things that I noticed. I noticed dinosaurs, and I noticed the boy and the lady looking at books. Okay, look at the cover one more time. Now I want you to think, what do you wonder? Remember, to wonder is to be curious and come up with questions that you want answered when you read. Tell your learning partner something you wonder. Here are a few things that I wondered. Why is the lady looking at the boy's book? Who is the boy? Why is the boy riding a dinosaur? Did you wonder some of the same things that I did? You probably did. One way to wonder or to be curious and show curiosity is to ask questions. And we can ask questions using these question words. why, who, where, when, what, how. Now, I know you may be familiar with these words already, but I want to remind you about the purpose of a few of the question words. For example, who? Who questions ask about people? Where? Where questions ask about places? What? What questions ask about specific information? For today's lesson, you will need to come up with a question about the book that includes one of these question words: who, what, or where. Now that you have made observations about the front cover and you know what question words to use as you are wondering today, you will practice developing your own noticing and wonders as you listen to me read Tomas and the Library Lady. I'd really like for you to follow along with me, so pause the video if you have a book and you need to grab it. If you don't have a copy, don't worry. Just be sure to listen carefully as I read. As you are reading with me or listening carefully, make sure that you are not just noticing the illustrations, but that you are noticing the details in the words. One thing to know about this book is that the pages aren't numbered. So don't tell anyone, but I numbered mine and you might want to also, if it's okay with your learning partner. We will start with page 1, and that's the page with the boy looking out the window. Are you ready? Let's get into the text. It was midnight. The light of the full moon followed the tired old car. Tomas was tired too, hot and tired. He missed his own bed in his own house in Texas. Tomas was on his way to Iowa again with his family. His mother and father were farm workers. They picked fruit and vegetables for Texas farmers in the winter and for Iowa farmers in the summer. Year after year, they bumped along in their rusty old car. Mama, whispered Tomas, if I had a glass of water, I would drink it in large gulps. I would suck the ice. I would pour the last drops of water on my face. Tomas was glad when the car finally stopped. He helped his grandfather, Papa Grande, climb down. Tomas said, Buenos noches, good night, to Papa, Mama, Papa Grande, and to his little brother Enrique. He curled up on the cot in the small house that his family shared with the other workers. Early the next morning, Mama and Papa went out to pick corn in the green fields. All day they worked in the hot sun. Tomas and Enrique carried water to them. Then the boys played with a ball Mama had sewn from an old teddy bear. When they got hot, they sat under a tree with Papa Grande. Tell us the story about the man in the forest, said Tomas. Tomas liked to listen to Papa Grande tell stories in Spanish. Papa Grande was the best storyteller in the family. En un tiempo pasado, Papa Grande began. Once upon a time, on a windy night, a man was riding a horse through a forest. The wind was howling, whoo, and the leaves were blowing, whish, whish. All of a sudden, something grabbed the man. He couldn't move. He was too scared to look around. All night long, he wanted to ride away, but he couldn't. How the wind howled, whoo, how the leaves blew, how his teeth chattered. Finally, the sun came up. Slowly, the man turned around. And who do you think was holding him? Tomas smiled and said, a thorny tree. Papa Grande laughed. Tomas, you know all my stories, he said. There are many more in the library. You are big enough to go by yourself. Then you can teach us new stories. The next morning, Tomas walked downtown. He looked at the big library. Its tall windows were like eyes glaring at him. Tomas walked around and around the big building. He saw children coming out carrying books. Slowly, he started climbing up the steps. He counted them to himself in Spanish. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. His mouth felt full of cotton. Tomas stood in front of the library doors. He pressed his nose against the glass and peeked in. The library was huge. A hand tapped his shoulder, and Tomas jumped. A tall lady looked down at him. It's a hot day, she said. Come inside and have a drink of water. What's your name? She asked. Tomas, he said. Come, Tomas, she said. Inside it was cool. Tomas had never seen so many books. The lady watched him. Come, she said again, leading him to a drinking fountain. First, some water, then I will bring books to this table for you. What would you like to read? Tigers. Dinosaurs? Said Tomas. Tomas drank the cold water. He looked at the tall ceiling. He looked at all the books around the room. He watched the lady take some books from the shelves and bring them to the table. This chair is for you, Tomas, she said. Tomas sat down. Then very carefully he took a book from the pile and opened it. Tomas saw dinosaurs bending their long necks to lap shiny water. He heard the cries of a wild snake bird. He felt the warm neck of the dinosaur as he held on tight for a ride. Tomas forgot about the library lady. He forgot about Iowa and Texas. Tomas, said the library lady softly. Tomas looked around. The library was empty. The sun was setting. Tomas, would you like to borrow 2 library books? I will check them out in my name. Tomas walked out of the library carrying his books. He ran home, eager to show the new stories to his family. Papa Grande looked at the library books. Read to me, he said to Tomas. First, Tomas showed him the pictures. He pointed to the tiger. Que tigre tan grande? Tomas said first in Spanish and then in English. What a big tiger! Read to me in English, said Papa Grande. Tomas read about tiger eyes shining brightly in the jungle at night. He roared like a huge tiger. Papa, Mama, and Enrique laughed. They came and sat near him to hear his story. Some days, Tomas went with his parents to the town dump. They looked for pieces of iron to sell. Enrique looked for toys. Tomas looked for books. He would put the books in the sun to bake away the smell. All summer, whenever he could, Tomas went to the library. The library lady would say, first a drink of water and then some new books, Tomas. On quiet days, the library lady said, come to my desk and read to me, Tomas. Then she would say, please teach me some new words in Spanish. Tomas would smile. He liked being the teacher. The library lady pointed to a book. Book is a libro, said Tomas. Libro, said the library lady. Pájaro, said Tomas, flapping his arms. The library lady laughed. Bird, she said. On days when the library was busy, Tomas read to himself. He'd look at the pictures for a long time. He smelled the smoke at an Indian camp. He rode a black horse across a hot, dusty desert, and in the evenings he would read the stories to Mama, Papa, Papa Grande, and Enrique. One afternoon, Tomas brought Papa Grande to the library. The library lady said, Buenos tardes, senor. Tomas smiled. He had taught this library lady how to say good afternoon, sir, in Spanish. Buenos tardes, senora, Papa Grande replied. Softly, Tomas said, I have a sad word to teach you today. The word is adios. It means goodbye. Tomas was going back to Texas. He would miss this quiet place, the cool water, the many books. He would miss the library lady. My mother sent this to thank you, said Tomas, handing her a small package. It is pan dulce, sweetbread. My mother makes the best pan dulce in Texas. The library lady said, how nice, how very nice. Gracias, Tomas. Thank you. She gave Tomas a big hug. That night, bumping along again in the tired old car, Tomas held a shiny new book, a present from the library lady. Papa Grande smiled and said, more stories for the new storyteller? Tomas closed his eyes. He saw the dinosaurs drinking cool water long ago. He heard the cry of a wild snake bird. He felt the warm neck of the dinosaur as he held on tight for a bumpy ride. Oh, such a wonderful book. And I am starting to see how books can change lives. And I don't know about you, but I noticed and wondered lots of things in the story. But I'm sure you did too. What I'd like you to do now is take just a few seconds to reflect on what you noticed and wondered using the question words who, what, and where. Okay, now share your reflections with your learning partner. Remember, as you're sharing your reflections on what you noticed and particularly what you wondered, be sure to use the question words who, what, and where. I really wish I could hear what you shared. But let me tell you a few things that I wondered. I wondered on page 8, when I read Tomas, you know all my stories, that made me wonder, where will Tomas get more stories? And then on page 16, when I read, the library lady looked at Tomas for a long time. She said, Tomas, would you like to borrow 2 library books? That made me wonder, what does borrow mean? There was one more thing. With the illustration on page 18, and that's the illustration with Tomas and the other people looking through items. That made me wonder, who were those people and what were they looking for? Pause for a minute and think. Did my wonderings make you wonder something else? If they did, share with your learning partner what else you wondered. First graders, great work exploring what you noticed and wondered about Tomas and the library lady. And great work beginning to build your knowledge of how books change lives. Remember, noticing and wondering about a text allows you to read the text with curiosity and attention. And it allows you to ask key questions about what you read. For our next lesson, we will continue working with Tomas and the library lady, so have your book ready. Until then, be kind and do something great because you are capable of greatness.